All right, let's get it. So, I can remember exactly where I was. Not the day, but it was February 2018, so it's been over 2 years. I was having a conversation with one of my best friends, and I was sitting on desk. I was an RA at the time of my college, and I was sitting on desk, and my boy. This was a conversation that it really changed our lives. I was talking to him the other day, and he said the same thing. Like, yo, you remember when we were talking that February? I'm like, yo, I keep going back to that because this conversation, had I not called him that night, you know, I don't know where I would be. This conversation really, really, really just changed both of our lives, and I'll explain it. But at the time, I was really into meditation. All right, I could tell you all about Christ consciousness, all about the different frequencies, your chakras, all types of stuff. I was really into that. And I didn't know he was into it. So we sat down and we started talking, chopped it up for like 3 hours. And we just talked about all different things. And I told him about a meditation camp that I had gone to down in Jessup, Georgia. And it was a 10-day meditation camp under the organization Vipassana or Vipassana, whatever you want to call it. And it was Dhamma meditation. And so it was there, no speaking for 10 days. Couldn't be on your phone. They took your phone in the beginning. So no phones, no outside conversations. You were just in your mind for 10 days. And it was one of the hardest things that I ever went through. I'm not going to lie. And, I was telling him about my experiences in meditation. He was telling me about his experiences in meditation. He went to a similar 2-day course. And we were just talking for 3 hours. But that wasn't what was the main trigger as what changed me and made me want to look into the Bible. What made me look into it was because he brought something up. He said to me, hey, Rock, I was talking to my older brother, and we were just chopping it up late night, and he said to me, yo, have you ever thought that we are on a planet that has 7 continents, but there's an entire continent that we cannot go to? And I was like, what? It was like, yeah, there's an entire continent that we cannot go to, Antarctica. And I was like, nah, you can go to Antarctica. It's just the regular stereotypical answer is just too cold. You don't want to go there. Who wants to go there, And he was like, nah, you can't go there. And so then I was like, all right, well, I'm one that wants to like look into stuff. And it was February my senior year. I was graduating in May. I'm like, all right. So he told me, check out this dude named Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Yeah, that's his name, Richard E. Byrd. He said, check him out. He's a pilot, Navy admiral, and long story short, he went up to like the North Pole, and he supposedly saw some stuff at the North Pole. He wasn't real descriptive of what all happened with Richard E. Byrd, but I was like, let me go ahead and check it out myself. It's like I said, it's February, and there's not too much school that I had to do. I was taking BS courses anyway, like equestrian. I was riding horses and stuff. And so I was like, let me go ahead and just check out what bro is talking about. It's my bro. I'm going to go ahead and just look into it for myself. So I looked into what Richard E. Byrd saw up at the North Pole. And long story short, he was said to have flown into inner Earth, all right, a place called Agartha. And hey, you can go look it up for yourself because I spent weeks, maybe a month looking into that alone. And all about inner Earth and all these different stories that he told, and the whole outcome of it. Because he went with another guy and they told, I guess, the government what they saw, and the government shut them up and said, don't talk about it. His boys supposedly talked about it, and they put him in a crazy house, and he supposedly jumped out a window and killed himself. So Richard E. Byrd wrote it down in the book, or his journal, and gave it to his son. and I think it was his son that went ahead and put it out after Richard E. Byrd died. So that's kind of how that whole thing went. But anyway, man. So with all that, it got me looking into all types of stuff like, whoa. And then I looked into a concept called Hollow Earth, you know, and I'm like, wow. So if he's going and he's a, 5-star admiral in the Navy, the youngest at the time, that's big news, man. This is a big guy, like, coming back and saying this. Not just, he's somebody that's already loyal to the Babylonian government, to the U.S. government, and he's coming back and he's saying this, like, that's a big thing. Somebody credible, right? So anyway, I looked into all that. I looked into Hollow Earth and all these different cave systems like Mammoth Cave that supposedly leads into Hollow Earth, and why you can't go into these cave systems without a park ranger. You can't go real deep into them, I should say. You can go into them, but there's a certain distance that you can go into them, but they're very, very deep. And there's some all over the world. The Tibetan monks are supposedly sitting on one. But yeah, so I looked into all that, and I was like, wow, so that's very interesting. I wonder what else, I just kept looking into it, like, is it really hollow? So let me start looking into all these stories that have tied into, Hollow Earth. The Vikings, all right? The Vikings are said to have never been defeated. They were bad. Them boys was bad, on the sea for sure. And it was on the land, really, really about it. So they weren't somebody that you could just come over and destroy. There's no record of the Vikings being destroyed. And if you talk to the Eskimos up near the North Pole, they said that they went to the land beyond. There's always a story of the land beyond. They always telling these movies about Journey to the Center of the Earth, something that has to do with Middle Earth and all this. Even Lord of the Rings, my girl put me onto it because I didn't watch it when I was growing up. So I saw Lord of the Rings last year, the whole trilogy, including The Hobbit for the first time. And I want to say it was the beginning of The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, the first movie, where it says somewhere in Middle Earth. And I was like, wow. And me already knowing this information, I was like, wow, it's very interesting. So, long story short, I kept doing more research. But then, Hollow Earth didn't really it was starting to have some discrepancies and certain things that I picked out on my own, which was, it seems to be an entering up at the North Pole, but not really too much one at the South Pole. It's always talking about one up at the North Pole. And then I started looking into certain operations that Richard E. Byrd had gone on, because after World War II, when they didn't, because Hitler didn't die in Germany. Like, that's pretty much common knowledge now. Hitler didn't die in Germany. If you don't believe me, you can look up. There's a lot of Nazi colonies down in Argentina and Chile, down in South America. All right, that's where a lot of these high-ranking officials after World War II went down to. They escaped out of Germany, went to South America, and they were chilling down there. And the U.S., they kind of knew that. And so they thought that he had a base down in Antarctica. All right, because if you know anything about the Nazis, they were pretty occultic. They had a lot of occult knowledge, and they were trying to exercise a lot of it during that time. But anyway, Richard E. Byrd led a fleet down to the South Pole, Antarctica, all right? And so when they got down there, they said that they started taking heavy losses in their airplanes, and then they had to phone back. Richard phoned back. I guess I think I'm trying to remember everything, but you guys can fact check me. Again, I don't mind being fact checked, But they said that he withdrew, went back to Chile, phoned back to the government, told them about the losses. They came back. So when I was going through all this, they were making it seem like, there was like a UFOs, taking out the airplanes and everything. But after doing much more research, I'm not a hollow earther. I believe that the earth is flat and that there's a dome overhead. All right, and this is me, a couple months after doing more research, right? This was now June of 2018. I came to this realization. It was flat with a dome overhead. I'm like, wow, So they went down there, the airplane started hitting something. It wasn't UFOs, it was hitting something, that dome, right? So after that, they came back. They went back down there, they being the U.S. government, in 1945 to 47, and they started running operations. The first one being Operation High Jump. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when I say that the Earth is flat is, Earth's not flat, rock. If the Earth was flat, you would fall off. All right, that's, what Disney has made you believe when you watch that Sinbad movie, with all people that, think of flat Earth have been brainwashed to believe, right? But you don't ever think about what if it was flat, but, there was actually, instead of falling off, there were actual mountains holding the water in. Because if you look up the Antarctic coastline, you clearly see for miles, all right, think of the Game of Thrones and that wall, all right, for miles, nothing but ice walls, all right, and that's what I believe in, man. Again, to go down there and prove it, you could be killed because of the Antarctic Treaty that they put in place in December 1st, I want to say 1959 or 1961, one of those 2 years, saying that you cannot cross the 60th parallel south. So you can't even go down there if you wanted to. All right, so I'm not going to be the one to go down there in a little rinky-dink rowboat, to try and prove my point. But that's what I believe in. And if you're a Christian or you believe in the Bible, then the Bible points to it itself. The Bible is a flat earth book. All right. So, again, this is June 2019. I'm coming to this realization. I'm trying to disprove everything. I'm like, nah, the earth cannot be flat. That sounds crazy. All right. But then when I start looking at NASA's saying, hey, we lost all the documentation to get back to the moon. We can't even get there even if we wanted to. And I'm like, how you lose all the documents to get to the moon? Bro, I still got text messages from 10 years ago. How do you lose all the information to get back to the moon? And so little things like that, it's like, it just makes you scratch your head. So I did a lot of research on it. And other ones like, what's his name? August Picard. And I'm dropping some gems for you guys to go back and do your own research too. But August Picard, back in, I want to say, the 1930s or 40s, he was a big scientist. That's who you got the captain. I'm not a big Star Trek fan, but Captain Picard. He's named after August Picard. All right. And so August Picard went 10 miles up in the air on a hot air balloon. That's 2.5 to 3 miles higher than a regular commercial airline flight. And he went up there. He was presumed to be dead, but he came back down and he said, "Yo, I saw the entire Earth pretty much, and the Earth is flat with upturned edges." I kid you not. Go do the research for yourself, man. That's what August Picard said. And so, what would those upturned edges be? Why in the 20th century do you have scientists coming back and saying, "Hey, the Earth is flat"? And it was published in a popular magazine in that time. I forget what the name was called, but I think it was like Popular Science or something. It was equivalent to National Geographics of our time. And so, with all that information, it was just like, man, okay, a lot of these biblical stories are starting to add up now. Noah's flood. If the earth is flat with a dome overhead. He opened the windows of heaven and water came down. And it would fill up similar to like a bathtub. You know, if you're filling it all up and you got these really high mountains, it's filling all the way up. So I was like, okay, the Tower of Babel story. You know, they were trying to go up into heaven and war with God, Most High, Yah. All right, and that was Nimrod, Genesis 11, check it out. And so that was always my big thing when I was in these Christian schools. I'm like, how you flood a ball? That doesn't make any sense. Like, they weren't dumb. You know, they got pyramids. They have all these stuff that we still don't even know how they built. But how do you flood a ball? That just never. Every time I asked a teacher, they didn't have an answer for me. They try and say gravity and all this other stuff, and I'm like, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I'm not. You know, and so now I believe gravity is a man-made concept. You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson can say whatever he wants to say. Hey, he said the Earth was a pear-shaped, for sure. You know, so why are we even putting any confidence in a man that says the Earth is a pear when you got Mr. Blue Marble on the other side who is creating the Earth? He said, yeah, we haven't been back up to space since the 1970s and the Apollo missions. So all these different pictures that we had since the 1970s have just been Photoshop images, supposedly, of when we went up to the moon, but now we can't go to the moon again because we don't have the documentation to get there. Okay, y'all are starting to, you know, contradict yourselves, and a lot of this just really ain't adding up. All right, and so it's like, and then they brainwash you. Because I remember the first time, like when I was younger, they had the little Apple iPod touches, right? And they would put the Earth as the screensaver, or the lock screen, I should say, right? And everybody that had those iPod touches can remember that one Earth picture, all right? And they're just brainwashing you to believe it. It's one of the first things that you learn when you go to the school is you see that globe. So you don't ever challenge it, all right? But just dig into it for yourself. This video is running a little bit long, and I don't like to make videos longer than 15 minutes, but dig into it for yourself. Prove me wrong. But again, now, you know, that's just something that I believe in also because of the Bible. And if you don't believe in the Bible, then it's hard for you to, you know, hard for me to even speak to you. Because this was the roundabout way that I had to take to believe in the Bible. I wouldn't have, you couldn't have brought the Bible to me and been like, the Bible is real. I'd have been like, yo, get that away from me. Get that out of my face. In a more explicit language. I'd use more explicit language, but I'm trying not to cuss, you know, on this channel. But yeah, I'd be like, yo, I'm not really feeling it. Get that away from me. All due respect to you. That's your belief. This is my belief. I don't believe in that. I believe in meditation, the God within, and, you know, all these chakras and kundalini. I believe in all that stuff, man. But yeah, I had to take that roundabout way to learn about the Bible. And once I saw that the Bible spoke about these things, that the rainbow, think of a rainbow, man. Like a rainbow you can make indoors with a water, light, and you need something to reflect off of, like a mirror. Outside, you need water and sunlight. And what will be the reflection? Something that will be reflecting off of. They say it'd be the dome. All right? Why is a rainbow arc-shaped? They're saying that's flat with a dome over it. Because after these operations that Admiral Byrd went on from 1940s on, the Operation High Jump. All right? And I kind of went off on a tangent and didn't get to them. But Operation High Jump. Operation High Jump, they went down to Antarctica and supposedly had to high jump onto some sort of surface, plain, whatever you want to call it, mountain region, and that was that operation down there. And then they had Operation Deep Freeze after it. Operation Deep Freeze. They say that they supposedly found the edge of the dome. All right? And then Operation Dominic was after that. And Operation Dominic, they started shooting nuclear bombs up into the atmosphere. It was like, yo, what is above us? You know, we see that there's something here. So what is, you know, this firmament, this dome? You can't get past Genesis 1. I tried reading the Bible when I was younger just because I went to a Christian school and I was trying to be all Christian-like and stuff. And I was like, it don't make sense. What are these different galaxies and all this stuff? It didn't make sense. I couldn't get past Genesis 10 because that's when you start learning about all these different lineages. I'm like, all right, man, this is not for me. You know, it don't make sense for what I'm learning. So this book obviously isn't real. I did try. But yeah, they started shooting these nuclear bombs up into the sky. Operation Dominic. And then within Operation Dominic, there was an operation called Operation Fishbowl. Fishbowl, like, you know what a fishbowl look like. I don't even know how I tried to explain it to y'all. All right, but check out Rob Skiba's videos. Rob Skiba does he's done more research, and he's a person that I looked at when I was first getting into it as well. But he talks about a lot of those missions more in depth. I'm not gonna go into them too much, but yeah, man. Yeah, so it's gonna be the end of this video because it's getting long. I'm gonna do some more videos regarding this topic. All right, I'll see y'all on Judgment Day.